If you like a good movie and love a tasty treat, you could win one of 3 HD flat-screen TVs. This is your chance to snack, watch, and win. Buy a 3-pack of Act 2 popcorn or a 10-ounce Crunch and Munch, plus a Hershey's milk chocolate or cookies and cream bar. Write your name and number on the back of the receipt. Drop it off at Pritchard's, Robinson Road, or Caleb Bahamas, Marathon Mall. Then order a movie from Rev TV On Demand, Channel 500, for your chance to snack, watch, and win. Enter today. Promotion ends August 30th.
Good evening, everyone. You're tuned into NB12. Coming up tonight in news. Following months of speculation, Dr. Elliston Rahming will not be our ambassador to Washington. We'll tell you what happened. A Jitney driver shot and killed. Police say his passengers witnessed the whole thing. The man accused of several gruesome murders back in court today. The Prime Minister reacts to the Cuban detainee situation. Plus, Cuban teachers prepare to hit the classroom. I'm Bonnie Toot, and NB12 starts now. Topping news tonight. Following months of speculation, the government is only today revealing that Dr. Elliston Rahming, who was named Bahamas ambassador to the United States back in February, withdrew his name more than 4 months ago and asked to be reassigned. Officials now say Rahming is to become ambassador to the United Nations, and Dr. Eugene Nuri, who was in February tapped for that very post, is now appointed ambassador to the United States. The official opposition is now demanding to know why government has kept Bahamians in the dark on this issue. Candia Dames reports.
Today's announcement comes after months of speculation over whether Rahming would be confirmed in that post. The announcement has also raised more questions about this diplomatic affair. February 13, 2013. The government announces Rahming's appointment. At a ceremony at the grounds of the Foreign Affairs Ministry, Prime Minister Perry Christie paid tribute to the former prison superintendent, as well as other newly announced diplomats. Rahming said he was grateful and humbled by the appointment. Weeks after, Rahming relocated to Washington, D.C. May 2nd, Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell told us no approval had yet been secured. He said these things take time. May 24th, the Shadow Minister for Foreign Affairs, Hubert Chipman, called on the government to come clean over reports that Dr. Rahming's confirmation as ambassador had stalled. June 19th, the FNM continued to press the matter, saying it believed the government would withdraw Rahming's name for consideration.
This has never happened before in the 40 years of our experience.
Mitchell said that while Rahming was not yet confirmed as ambassador, he had not been rejected either. Mitchell said the matter was still awaiting decision. That was in June. We are now told in a press statement released by the government today that a full month before the FNM press conference and the minister's statement that the government was awaiting a decision, Rahming had already withdrawn his name for consideration. But nothing on that was said before today. The matter dragged on for months. July 12th, former Foreign Affairs Minister Brent Simonet also raised questions.
By not answering is giving you the answer. So maybe what they should do is withdraw the application and consider someone else.
July 14th, Rahming shot back, saying he was suing Simonet for defamation. He said his non-confirmation had nothing to do with his character or with any wrongdoing on his part. But Rahming did not reveal that he had already withdrawn his name a full 2 months earlier. Opposition leader Dr. Hubert Minnis again raised this matter yesterday, saying it had made the Bahamas a laughing stock in the region. Well, this morning, Mitchell lashed out at the opposition leader for criticizing the government on the matter. In a statement hours later, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced that Dr. Rahming has now been appointed to the United Nations and will continue as the permanent representative to the Organization of American States. It said it made no announcement on these matters until agreement had been received from the U.S. government. This was received yesterday, according to that statement. At this point, the official opposition still has questions, such as what led Rahming to withdraw his name for consideration. Menes says that the government must provide details over what the opposition sees as a diplomatic gaffe. Reporting for NB12, I'm Candia Dames.
A family is grieving tonight following an armed robbery and double shooting that left a young Jitney driver dead and another man with a gunshot wound to the face. Police say Jitney passengers watched in horror last evening as two men riding on the bus robbed the driver before shooting him and another passenger. The driver died in hospital, becoming this country's latest murder victim. His family is now demanding justice.
I still can't believe it, and I miss him a whole lot. And I wish he was still here. And I don't think it's right for somebody to take another person's life.
18 hours after her cousin was robbed and killed by gunmen, Indika Ewing and her grieving relatives sat in the foyer of the Central Detective Unit, waiting to speak with homicide detectives. They were desperate to find out what happened on Toot Shop Corner and E Street last evening and why. Head of the Central Detective Unit, Superintendent Paul Roll, says police received reports of a double shooting in that area shortly after 6 p.m.
Driver of a bus, the omnibus, Jitney bus service, he had collected some passengers at some point on his route and was heading north into the downtown area when one of the passengers, when he got in the area of Toot Shop Corner, got up and demanded cash.
Roll says that's when another passenger on the bus sprang to his feet.
The second male who was sitting then got up, and the assailants turned to the second male and shot him to the face. He then went to the driver of the bus where he demanded the cash. The driver then handed over all of the cash that he had on him, and the assailant shot him multiple times about the body.
Both victims were taken to hospital, where the passenger was treated and discharged. However, the Jitney driver succumbed to his injuries hours later. Police have not released the victim's identity, only saying he was 24 years old. However, relatives identified him today as Gregory Adderley Jr., the father of a 6-year-old boy. His aunt Vernell Roker says the family is devastated.
My nephew, he was such a nice person, and I could always speak for him because anytime I called for him, he always there. And when I heard he got killed yesterday, I just couldn't believe it because I know Blackie was not that type of person. For nobody doesn't come and just take his life out like that.
I'm not believing it right now, but I miss him a whole lot, really, and I can't take it.
One of the suspects is described as a dark male who was wearing brown pants, a white shirt, and white tennis. The CDU chief is now calling on those passengers who witnessed this violent crime to come forward and help police catch the killers. Superintendent Roll says this latest killing brings the country's murder count for the year to 69. Now, it may seem like this year's murder count has decreased instead of increased after this latest murder. However, Roll insists that 2 stabbing deaths previously reported by the media as murder have now been labeled as death investigations and handed over to the coroner's court for further inquiries.
Just because somebody gets shot and dies doesn't make it murder. So if you're going by your record, Crystal, like y'all is telling me, according to the Guardian record, the number is such and such. Well, that is how many homicides you had. That is not murder. Okay? Homicide, when you look at the definition of homicide, which I encourage you to look at it, is the killing of a human being by another human being. Outright. When you start getting into the murder now, that's when you bring in intent and preparation and all of these other things.
The first case is that of 36-year-old Elkin Moss, who was stabbed to death on Jackfish Drive back in July. Police said at the time that Moss got into an argument with another man and was stabbed multiple times. The second case is that of 30-year-old Denero Roll, who was stabbed to death at his home off St. Vincent Road also in July. A relative was taken into custody.
Our official statement is it is being forwarded to the Her Majesty's coroner for determination, because what you don't have is all of the facts of the investigation. So I see you look a little confused. There's nothing tricky in it. It's just that when you because it's going to the coroner, I can't comment on it. The evidence is, when you'll have your reporter at the coroner's inquest when that is going on, and then it'll make sense. It'll become clearer.
From the courts, the man accused of a string of gruesome murders in the 1980s and early 90s was back in court today, more than 2 decades after he was sentenced to death. Cyril Darville appeared before resentencing 7 years after the Privy Council ruled mandatory death sentences unconstitutional. Jasmine Bonamy reports.
After spending decades in prison, Darville appeared back in court this morning expecting to be resentenced. However, things did not go off as planned. Darville, a former butcher at City Market, was originally charged with 8 counts of murder on May 16, 1990, but in August 1992 was ultimately only convicted of the murder of Ray Anthony Feast, who he fatally shot in 1990. He was 26 at the time. Darville was then sentenced to death and lost his appeal to that sentence on October 4, 1994. 19 years later, he appeared in the Supreme Court this morning for resentencing as a result of the 2006 Privy Council ruling that deemed the mandatory death sentence unconstitutional. But before Chief Justice John Isaacs could hand down a new sentence, attorney for the AG's office Ambrose Ambrister, who was in court for another matter, revealed the Crown's attorney for the case were not present in court because they were on leave. Ambrister further explained that while the probation report had been delivered to the AG's office, no one from the AG's office was aware that it was there and viewed it. In court, Darville was seen reviewing several legal documents from inside the prisoner's dock, often whispering loudly to his lawyer and at one point raising his hand to address Justice Isaacs. Darville's court-appointed lawyer Dorsey McPhee addressed the court, saying his client had indicated that he was read a death warrant but had his death sentence commuted to life by the Advisory Committee on the Prerogative of Mercy in 1997. Ambrister said given the fact that he needed to review the probation report and the question as to whether Darville's life sentence had in fact been commuted to be researched to ensure the resentencing was not an exercise in futility, he suggested the matter be adjourned. Justice Isaacs adjourned the matter to September 3rd. Reporting for NB12, I'm Jasmine Bonamy.